within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way. The Mediterranean is on fire. Southern Europe's most intense heatwave is fanning the flames. From Italy to Greece to Turkey. A heat dome, which is a high-pressure bubble trapping warmth, might be the complex scientific explanation, but the hot temperatures, the dry conditions, and the strong winds have resulted in deadly devastation. These are some of Europe's most popular holiday destinations, but this summer they are burning. In Turkey, water cannon, normally used for crowd control, was brought in to tackle the blaze in Bodrum. In Sicily, the beach resort near Catania had to be evacuated by sea after more than 100 people were trapped. In Palermo, the smoke could be seen for miles. Flames in Greece were being fanned down the slopes and at risk of swallowing up seaside villages. And on Evia Island, temperatures reached 45 degrees Celsius as EU members sent extra firefighting teams to help. It is an indiscriminate crisis. The Turkish president said the wildfires were started deliberately and hinted the Kurdish separatist movement, the PKK, could be behind them, whilst providing no evidence and insisting the danger was under control.
Our nation should be at ease. We will not allow any of our citizens to suffer. We will cover all the damages. We cannot do anything beyond wishing the mercy of God for the lives we have lost, but we can replace everything that has burned.
But the calls for calm were largely ignored in a week of relentless destruction and a lot of fear. And while the tourists may be able to leave, it is the people who call this place home who are paying the greatest price.
Something is different, because I've never seen this before. We've had little fires before, but I've never seen this devastation. And it's not just here, it's everywhere.
The infernos swept through houses, businesses and farmland, terrifying residents, with many claiming this was an avoidable catastrophe. Turkey's leader admitted it was the worst fire in the country's history, and they had no functioning firefighting fleet of their own. It meant Turkey had to wait for specialized aircraft from other countries, including Russia, Spain and Iran. And despite all the attempts by authorities at reassurance, even putting out a sophisticated and stirring video montage of the efforts to control the wildfires, on the ground, those affected were coping with a very different reality. There have been nearly 200 different fires sweeping through nearly half of Turkey's provinces, and they've affected some of the nation's best-known tourist locations. Antalya, the country's biggest international seaside resort, on what's known as the Turkish Riviera, was hit, as well as the coastal towns of Manavgat, Marmaris and Bodrum. Residents and holidaymakers had to be rescued from Bodrum in a flotilla as the fire moved on to the nearby community of Çokgetme. Firefighters from Istanbul have arrived just in the nick of time. But they are vastly outnumbered by the villagers of Çokgetme, who are desperately trying to halt the flames lapping at their back gardens. Everyone who can is helping in the effort. Many are terrified. But this is about saving their homes and all their possessions, and time is not on their side.
This is quite an extraordinary local effort. These are just villagers without any training, just a desire to beat back the flames from their homes.
They use water bottles to dampen the area around their houses. It's all they have. But there's another breakout on the other side of the village. The fire's moving in on them on several sides, and many villagers are bitterly critical their government wasn't better prepared.
I feel very tired and helpless. We can't do anything. Our houses are burning, our forests are burning, and there's nothing we can do.
The state isn't helping. If the villagers weren't here, it would be worse. There aren't enough firefighters, there are no planes, there are no helicopters.
Where are these people, she's screaming. There's growing anger. The help isn't coming quickly enough for them. These fires have gone on for nearly a week now. My house is burning. My house, my house. My God, she tells us. Where are they? Where are they? This village is standing in the path of the fire, and they just can't seem to stop its advance. These are the worst fires in at least a decade in Turkey, with the whole of the Mediterranean suffering higher than normal temperatures.
The fire is completely outrunning firefighters. It's totally engulfed this house and is taking over and about to burn tractors and farmland. It is outpacing firefighters at a rate of knots, and they just can't keep pace with it.
We saw one farmer desperately throwing buckets of water around, not nearly enough to staunch this angry fire. A Russian helicopter was helping out, trying to douse the flames, part of the international help offered after the Turkish leader admitted his air fleet was not adequate. Panic is building up, and at a rapid rate. The fire is advancing, and the winds are picking up, helping it rip through the surrounding forest. As the firefighters decide to pull out, they warn everyone to do the same. Their plan is to return with reinforcements, but right now the fire's too strong and people are scrambling to get to safety.
This is what they're up against, because this has happened within the last 20 minutes. Huge walls of flame.
Get out, they're shouting. There's no clarity on exactly how these fires started, although some have been blamed on arsonists. But the forests are tinder dry after these record temperatures, and the ferocity of the fires have been shocking.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way. Wow, that is wow.
Turkey has already been suffering badly economically because of coronavirus and the fall in tourism. These fires will deliver yet another cruel punch, and they're not over yet. Not since the late 1980s has Greece felt heat like this. Rhodes is nearest to the Turkish coast, right in the danger zone of this burning summer. Sky's Michelle Clifford travelled to the island and witnessed a separate front in the battle against the flames. In one case, she found a landscape and livelihood transformed. The withered vines, a painful reminder of what fire delivered to the island. Michelle met the vineyard owner, now faced with rebuilding his business.
And is everything destroyed in terms of the vineyards?
In terms of the vineyards, I think everything is pretty much destroyed.
2 generations of the Safirakopoulos family have managed this winery, but the intense weather has left them wondering where they go from here.
We're thankful that we still have our home and our buildings for our business, because the flames came so very close that we might have been homeless today. So I guess we're thankful for that, but we do struggle to figure out how we're going to recover.
Large swathes of roads have burned during days of fires on the island, the worst blazes ever seen by residents who've lived here for years. What is the worst heatwave in Greece for more than 30 years brought ministers here with officials keen to bolster the work of the emergency services and deliver a stark warning about why they think the extreme weather's unfolding.
It's directly to climate change, yes. And as you see, the temperatures that Greece is experiencing are quite high. But it's not only that. We see these temperatures in North America, all over the world, Australia. We see wildfires burning millions of acres.
And concerns about rising temperatures could impact industry on this island, which relies heavily on tourism. The visitors may seek the sun, but the heat has proved too much for some. Michelle asked tourists about their approach to the hotter conditions.
It is not good, not good.
A little bit too hot, to be honest, but yeah, it makes us think also about the environment a little bit.
We'd probably just come at a different time of year, like October or something.
They have ways of how to cope with it. I wouldn't care that much, but yeah, it's getting a little bit unbearable.
One way to cope with the unbearable heat is with air conditioning, but people were warned to use it as little as possible to conserve energy supplies damaged by the fires, piling misery upon misery. The whir from the skies has become this summer's soundtrack as the efforts continue to contain these unrelenting fires. Aircraft have been continually unloading vast containers of water onto the still burning earth below. Michelle was with the residents forced to flee the village of Varibobi as the community was engulfed by fire.
It was in my neighbor's behind field, which I saw the flames were high. I don't know how much high. It was impossible. I started crying.
The fire raced through a mountainous area north of Athens with extraordinary speed, catching residents by surprise and giving them barely any time to escape. George Kyriakopoulos managed to get back to Varibobi, but just couldn't take in what had happened to his family land or the much-loved home of his mother and father.
Because if you see this in this situation, he will cry.
His own home was badly damaged. His dog died in the fire, and George was lucky to escape with his life.
Came in 10 minutes, engulfed us with air.
So you were escaping amid the flames?
Yes. Inside the flames we fly.
Emergency workers, the military, along with locals doing what they can, are fighting battle after battle to prevent further damage hour after exhausting hour. They've made some progress, but this scorched land is unforgiving, and that's what worries Roulemantis.
Wow. So much damage.
Yes. She showed the remains of the business she runs with her partner. Her frustration at the destruction is huge, matched only by admiration for the firefighters and worries for the future.
It's very hard. It's a lot of money we have to spend to make this from the beginning. We can't save anything, as you can see.
Hundreds are yet to return to Varibobi. Extraordinary and devastating images will greet them, and so too will the challenge of trying to recover. Back in Turkey, the lack of preparedness has sparked much anger and criticism of the country's leader, prompting a rash of social media hashtags calling on other countries to help. Politics is never far away in Turkey, but with about a quarter of the country covered by forest, the nation's been particularly vulnerable after droughts and record temperatures coupled with the lack of firefighting aircraft. It's been a constant race against the elements for exhausted firefighting crews, and 2 in Turkey have died, whilst others were dispatched from Istanbul, around 700 kilometres away, to boost the battle force. The fires have ripped through thousands of hectares of forest, turning trees and farmland into ash, and they aren't done yet. Extra firefighters have been called in to help in the battle along this Aegean coast. The beast of a fire is now heading towards holiday homes and a nearby power plant which provides electricity to more than 500,000 people. They're working day and night to cut scars in the forest and create a firebreak to slow the flames down, bringing in heavy machinery to fell trees and forge a path to save lives, homes and businesses. Helicopters ferried buckets of ocean water to dump on the flames over and over again. There's been a visible increase in personnel here as the fires rampage through. Local residents watched aghast at the unfurling emergency. 1 week on, they're still struggling to contain the fires amid some of the highest temperatures on record. And despite the constant ash raining down, some tourists pressed on with their holidays. A few hundred metres away on the hill behind them, the inferno was getting dangerously close to holiday apartments. This is exactly what they've been trying to prevent. The strong winds and scorching heat are proving a formidable combination. The scale and strength of these wildfires are staggering and keep on getting the better of the fire crews.
It's quite normal.
Well, it's more extreme. It's the worst in 40 years.
The climate is changing, weather is getting hotter.
And when you look behind you and you said it's under control, do you think that's under control?
That's like it has been on fire, same spot for 2 days. It's not moving anywhere. So we are not bothered with it. It's let's say like a watch fire. It's not going anywhere.
But after a small lull, despite their confidence, just when the exhausted fire crews thought they'd got it contained, sparks and strong winds set off the fires again and the crews beat a very quick retreat. They are proving no match for the elements, and the heat wave and low humidity is set to continue all week.
That's what the fire has left behind. Trail of devastation. And the way they've tried to stop it from progressing is to build a breaker. They've cut a huge scar in this mountain forest, which leads all the way down there, and it's acted as a brake to try and stem the flames and save that little holiday village which was standing in the way of the fire.
Even after the fire passes, the danger's not over. There's so much heat around, the flames often reignite. So surviving foliage needs to be cut and the embers have to be cooled. Firefighters, even those with obvious wounds, press on. There's too much to lose and too much to do.
I'm working non-stop, day and night. This job is my heart.
This is a traumatic time for Turkey's citizens, and there's a lot of fear as huge sections of the country go up in smoke, and questions mount on just why the fires have been so bad and why the nation wasn't better prepared for them. As the flames came close to endangering one of the biggest coal power stations in Muğla province, workers were hurriedly taken to safety by rescue boats, and the nearby town of Oran was evacuated. One Turkish television crew was horrified at the speed of the fire as they scrambled to get out of the danger zone. The Turkish authorities have struggled to control the narrative on these unprecedented events, and amidst repeated images of fires raging out of control, the country's media watchdog issued warnings to news outlets about punitive sanctions if they continued to stir up fear and panic, with reporters criticised for focusing too much on the actual fires rather than those put out. Turkey's failure to ratify climate change accords in the face of this disaster will add to the international pressure on the country. But the terrible scenes across multiple countries in the Mediterranean, as fires have ripped through communities, forests and farmland, may not be a one-off. With scientists and weather experts warning, this may all be repeated next year.